Hello one and all, welcome back to ArcheAge Inspiration. Today's rolls are 1, 5, and 6. So let's see what we get. That looks like Battle Rage, Songcraft, and Witchcraft. That makes us into a Dirgeweaver. Well, as is common with the series here. It's got a cool name, but let's see what it can do. Okay, so Dirgeweaver. This one's pretty fun. I actually spent quite a bit of time working with this, much longer than I normally do on these builds, trying to fine-tune it and come up with exactly what I wanted. And this build in particular shows me two things that I'd like to talk about. First thing, it's definitely a build that gets a lot better at level 55. I've been noticing a ton of builds that get a lot better at 55, or at least potentially get better at 55 with the 5 extra skill points. It really makes me wonder what the metagame is going to shape up to be in the higher tiers of play. This is just very barely short of a number of really great things that it could possibly do, above and beyond what it already can do, which is quite a large, respectable amount of things. And secondly, it points to the notion of, what is your core build? What are you trying to go for, and how can you vary that? And the particular case of this one, with Battle Rage and Witchcraft, there's a decent amount of synergy here. But it's kind of interesting how even just 2 points from Songcraft, Startling Strain and Bloody Shanty, can make a pretty large impact on the combo chains that are possible, the synergies that are possible, and so on. Having an extra stun actually makes a pretty huge difference in terms of what all is possible. When I record these videos, I tend to show off, just 1 or 2 elements of the build. And I don't want you to think that I'm being single-minded. I just don't have the time or know-how to fully explore every combination. It would take hours, probably days or weeks to really even get a passable baseline for what is truly possible with a particular spec. That was never the purpose of this series of videos. It was mostly to find something to inspire myself and other people to maybe test further. In this particular case, I have a combo series that is actually quite lengthy, finishing with a long duration CC, which allows you to continue the chain further or deviate from it. I was trying to do everything I could to maximize damage during the duration of this chain, and I think I've managed to do that. It does not include a precision strike somewhere in there, though, which would be, of course, extremely nice. Just to talk about the build in general, Startling Strain, Bloody Shanty, pretty standard stuff to pick up as part of a damage package from Songcraft. Nothing else is really going to do us much good. Witchcraft, more or less the standard package. I'd love to have Dahuta's Breath, but it doesn't quite fit. Insidious Whisper normally isn't taken very often with most Witchcraft players, which is kind of a shame because it's actually really good. And this is going to be our initiation tool of choice, and you'll see why here in a minute. Enshroud not taken, just simply out of not having points. Same thing with Mitigation. This build would probably want to wear Plate. Possibly with strength and stamina, int and stamina, or maybe even strength and int could be viable. Battle Rage, pretty standard stuff. I decided to pick up Terrifying Roar because of its interesting synergies with Enervate. Both of these increase the duration of CC elements. Terrifying Roar increasing all of those listed by 20%, including stun and trip, and Enervate as well, increasing the duration of stun and trip by 30%. So with these two inflicted on an enemy, your crowd control chains are going to be much more effective. Now, when you're doing crowd control chains in this game, it's important to do them as quickly as possible, with a few exceptions. If you have a very long duration ability, such as the Sleep from Lassitude or Bubble Trap, you have a little bit more leeway. But due to the nature of a lot of players' builds offering them reduced duration of CC infliction, you have to be very careful not to get overly confident in the duration. I mean, just because your crowd control element, like for example here with Starting the Strain, just because it says it's going to last 2 seconds doesn't mean it actually is. So you have to be very careful about that. Make sure that you're not putting yourself in an excess amount of risk for no reason. So just something to be aware of when you're doing anything. This build also has some potential for picking up Frenzy. Frenzy does increase your melee and magic attack by quite a bit. Also gives you some extra magic mitigation. Of course, at this point, you do lose your physical defense, so this is one of those things that's very shaky at best as to when exactly it's usable, because it does make you extremely vulnerable to physical damage. Although having mitigation could help that a little bit, it's not going to be enough to let you survive a true onslaught. However, if you're going against an enemy mage, I don't see any reason to use it if you have it. Just beware that it will stun you for a certain amount of time. So what you can do if you're in a 1v1 situation, if the fight is going on quite a long time and you know your frenzy is about to be up and you're about to be stunned, you can just try to time in one of your long duration CC elements such as Bubble Trap, maybe Lassitude, to keep them under wraps while you endure your own stun. Other things include Dahuda's Breath, like I had mentioned. Whirlwind Slash has some potential here as well with the slow, possibly combined with Sunder Earth. So it'll allow you to have a longer CC chain. Interestingly enough, Whirlwind Slash duration of trip 30% longer when you have a target that's been enervated. So quite a lot of potential to really fit this in here if you could manage. I'm not sure exactly where it would go, but somewhere along the lines you would definitely have the possibility of including this in a CC chain. So more potential than what I've just shown here. Again, 5 extra points would make a pretty big difference with this build, but I wanted to show you at least a baseline of the sort of starter combo that I came up with to wrap the video up, just so you can see what it can do. So we're going to open up with Insidious Whisper. We're going to use that to not only start the fight with a crowd control element, a hard crowd control element, but we are also going to close in and use the opportunity with the Fear to use a Terrifying Roar. Terrifying Roar will inflict a much longer duration of crowd control elements. We're then going to use Bloody Shanty to boost our initial damage output as well as reduce the global cooldown. We're going to follow this up with a Startling Strain, extended in duration because of Terrifying Roar. Following up with an Enervate for a large amount of damage. The target should ideally be both stunned and feared at this time, so the damage inflicted by Enervate is going to be quite massive. We will immediately follow up with Focal Concussion, dealing more damage and stunning them. We're then going to charge in to inflict a snare. At this point, they would normally pop out of the crowd control chain, but we'll immediately follow that up with a Banshee's Wail. Banshee Wail will then fear them. While the stun is still while the snare is still active, if you do these abilities quickly enough, Earthing Grip should be hitting just about the time the Enervate is about to fade, allowing you to regain a large amount of health and inflict a large amount of damage from the snare. And then as you are mud-handing, you should likely be running away and trying to use Lassitude. This is kind of where the combo starts to flake out a little bit. But again, we have other options here. You know, you could interrupt certain times to Bubble Trap and buy yourself some more time. I didn't find a way to work Precision Strike in, but this is a pretty wide suite of CC elements, and it's important to understand your class on a far deeper level than just a gimmicky combo. But again, for the purposes of the videos, just to show something that's doable, I like to show off the gimmicky combos just because they're a lot of fun to design. But with this full package of abilities, especially if you can get the extra CC stuff, Sunder Earth, Whirlwind Slash, maybe even Dahuda's Breath, you've got a lot of potential here. Startling Strain in general is just a really good get-out-of-jail-free card because as soon as you fire it, it's guaranteed to get a stun. So if you fire it and then you get crowd controlled immediately afterwards, it has a little bit of a travel time, meaning that you're going to inflict the stun no matter what. So let's go ahead and do the combo here. So I'm going to open up with the Insidious Whisper, like I said, close the gap here, do my shout, which I actually missed, so hopefully I'll still be able to get this. Okay, you can see that sometimes if they run away, it's going to cause some problems, but otherwise I think we managed to get most of the combo done here. I'll go ahead and just let this restore its time. But as you can see, I put the target to sleep afterwards with my Lassitude. This build could definitely benefit from an increased move speed of some sort. Being able to close gaps much more quickly would be very handy, for sure. I'm just going to go ahead and finish the target off. As far as your weapon goes, speaking of the higher level cap, the Obsidian weapons from the Northern Lands would be ideal for this. Either an Obsidian Katana, which is the one-hander, giving you a large amount of DPS and magic attack, or I would imagine it's the Obsidian Nodachi. I think there is a two-hander that also has good magic attack, so whichever of those is available to you, you can dual wield or you can use a two-hander. I think either is viable. Again, I'm kind of limited on my gear. I just have this crappy offhand that I use for examples, and then of course Sea Serpent's Malice, which I'm lucky enough to have. So let's try this again. Hopefully this time I'm going to get a little closer just for the purposes of the demonstration. Fear, Terrifying Roar, Bloody Shanty, that right there. So now we get the full power of Innervate, the Trip, the Fear, Mud Hand, and then starting to run away with Lassitude. And get the Sleep inflicted, and now I can do what I will. So, you know, if I want to just pour on some more damage and come around and do a Precision Strike, and then just Bubble Trap, or whatever you want to do. So that's a very quick look at this interesting class, the Dirgeweaver. Seems like it's got some potential. I hope you found this video interesting and exciting, and I look forward to making and continuing the rest of the series through the new year, as I do want to get back to recording these on a more regular basis. The holidays have been course, taxing a lot of my time and energy, so it's been hard to get these videos out as regularly as possible, but I am very much enjoying them, and I hope you are too. So sayonara, everyone, from Rookborn Basin, and I'll see you next time.